Hey everybody, in this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show, we are back. Season 5 kicks off with the conclusion to the big Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries. We're going to break it all down next.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
It's the Legends of Tomorrow here on AfterBuzz TV. Season 5 starts now. Come and join us. That was pretty awful, Lauren. There you go. There you go. Welcome, everybody.
Energy up, though.
Yeah, got it going. Yes. Welcome, everybody, to the Legends of Tomorrow After Show. Breaking down all season. Legends Tomorrow airing Tuesday nights now on the CW. I am Frank Moran.
And I'm Lauren B., and we are here ready to go.
Yes, welcome to the panel, Lauren.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Very excited. Lauren's going to be joining us all season long, but you notice there's one person missing, and that is the adorable Dave Child. Yeah, yes, that's right. I know. He couldn't make it here tonight, but that's all right. He's going to be back next week, and he'll be here for the rest of the season, breaking down everything. You know, he's a busy man,
yeah.
Lauren. You know, got
Look,
responsibilities.
It happens, life.
That's right. That's
it's
right.
Okay.
But that's all right. What we're going to do, folks, is we're going to talk about the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries there. We're talking about what we loved, what we didn't like. And then we'll get everybody pumped for Season 5 of Legends of Tomorrow, which actually kicks off next Tuesday with its real season premiere. This is just kind of a nice little bookend, kind of a coda to the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries. So, Lauren, I will start off here since you're new to the panel, new to the fans of the after show.
Yes.
Yes. And from what you told me just before we went on, new to DC.
Yes, very new to DC.
So what has been sucking you in about the DC TV universe, or even any DC comics you may have read?
Flash, Supergirl. Those are the two that got me hooked, and then it just kind of spilled over and just trying to go and keep up with everything, and then I just got introduced to the DC Legends. So what can we do? I was a huge fan of the Firestorm team when they were with Flash, so it just kind of sucked me on in.
I feel like, as you'll soon see through this after show, and I think Jonathan, who's in the booth making us look good and sound even better.
Yes. Hey there.
That's right. This is probably the most, relaxed, almost / humorous of the DC TV universe shows, the Berlantiverse, if you will.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree with that. Yes, they're silly fools. That's all I can say. There's all kinds of jokes and puns, and they're so light with everything that's going on. It's just craziness.
So this is a little different because it was kind of finishing up a miniseries. But I will ask you, going into next week, as we start with our Legends of Tomorrow cast, who from the Legends are team members that you really like? Are you gravitating towards?
Oh, man. I mean, White Canary, for sure.
Of course.
I mean, I'm here for those that follow me with Vikings. Anytime that there is a huge, super powerful kick-butt female that is leading the gang, I just gravitate towards her. I'm here for that character. So she's definitely my favorite.
I will not argue with that at all. You know, I have to imagine I've got a soft spot for Steel. I mean, it was later to the show, but I don't know. I kind of dig especially his and Ray's friendship. I really do like that.
Yes, they have a very nice dynamic.
Yeah, they're open with their feelings. They're willing to share. It's like, who doesn't like two buds that can just share their feelings?
And they're so lighthearted. Like, anytime something's going wrong, it's like, what did you just say? Like, how? Okay. All right. We needed some light humor, some comedy to soften the blow for everything. So we'll take it.
So, folks, as always, like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and the chat is up and running. So feel free to hop in, share your thoughts. I know you're probably already in there sharing your feelings about how the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries ended. And, do that even after we're done streaming, or you can actually comment down below on the YouTube video. Pretty easy.
Please, yes. Interact with us.
Yes. So, Lauren, I'm going to ask you, as somebody that's new to the DC, the Berlantiverse and DC Comics, we also introduced this huge DC Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries crossover. Mm-hmm. For you, were you jazzed about the idea of all these shows kind of intermingling and getting together for a story?
I loved it. I mean, for me personally, as I'm learning more and more about each different universe and then each series and all the different characters, I love to see them come together and have this huge team building moment, and just watching how everyone knows each other and their relationships and how they interact, and how like their past has helped for their future and how their future is impacting their past. It's a lot to keep up with, but I really actually love that dynamic. I know there was a lot of jokes for all the different mini crossovers that have happened, and oh, it's another crossover, oh, it's another crossover, and I just thought it was cute and funny. So for me, I love to see the team and everybody come together to save the world.
As somebody who's been reading comics for way too long, Crisis on Infinite Earths is one of my favorite stories. I mean, it's not the best told story. The art is phenomenal. George Perez and Jerry Ordway doing the artwork for that. Marv Wolfman writing the majority of it. It's, the broad strokes of the story are great. Some of the beats and stuff are like, a little shabby. But I was excited when they announced this last season. It's like, hey, yes, we're calling our shot for this TV season. We're going to do the real Crisis on Infinite Earths. And you're like, oh, man, this is fantastic. We've gotten to the point where which, maybe when Arrow first started, when it was more of I would say grounded, hadn't quite embraced all the comic book tropes that it could do.
Right.
That it does now. That it was a much more grounded series. And you're like, I can't imagine from like season 1 of Arrow to what now you're seeing multiverses coming together. You're like, all right, this is cool. I want to see what they do with this.
Yes.
And I have to admit, I was at parts kind of jazz. I was a mixture of emotions watching these 5 episodes. Parts of it that I liked, parts of it I was like, oof, what's going on? And the ending, I was like, all right.
It was soft.
It was soft. I mean,
but it kind of needed to be soft.
Do you think
just
so?
A little bit. Yes, because of the whole sentimental value and the weight of losing Oliver. Like, we needed to end on a sweet moment. So I think that kind of justified that moment a little bit.
All right, I'm going to ask you, Lauren. My questions about Oliver Queen during this whole 5 episodes.
Yes.
I'm calling them issues as if they're comic books, but these 5 episodes. What I thought was interesting is that we knew that he was going into this. That's what the whole last season of Arrow's been about, that you're going to be dying in this crisis. And we're like, we're waiting. And we're figuring like, it's going to come at the end. Yeah, so we're just not really worried about Oliver, so to speak. But then in the second episode, boom, or the first episode, excuse me, he gets killed. And you're like, whoa, where are we going from here? So you're like, wow. I appreciated that twist, seeing him die so early in the event. But then we got, let's resurrect him. And we got his body back. Now we got to get his soul back. And then now he's a specter. And then he dies again.
So many different variations, right?
Yeah. I just felt like it was almost like he died twice in this. And I was like, okay, why did we do that?
Just to yank us along. Just to yank us along. Because I seriously thought that was it. And then when they did the whole soul part and, this isn't the first character that was brought back, it's like, oh, okay, well, this was the journey. And now we're opening the door because we have 5 parts to this. So killing him now, was that really fun? No. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah, Oliver's story for me was kind of, and he kicked off the Arrowverse, so you got to give him his props.
Right.
Absolutely. And at the end, putting his costume up in the soon-to-become Hall of Justice.
Yes.
Great. Got the nice arrow, eternal flame burning in front of it. But it's like, do we need to, I don't know. I was kind of...
How did you really feel about it?
I felt like, why did we need 2 death scenes? Why did we need 2? Like, I felt like we hit the head, we hit it with that emotion right there at the first death. And then it was almost like we were recycling it again on the second time around. And I don't know, what the other choice would be. What do you does he just disappear? Does he still alive, exist as a specter and he just moves on to something else? I don't know what the other choice would be other than like, oh yeah, he died. I
feel like if we would have just, killed him off that prematurely into the series, it would have left us a little hopeless as a viewer because his role was very, very pivotal to the story this go around. He was more or less that key component to moving the story along and unveiling certain keys and kind of giving people the nudge that they needed to keep moving forward or understand what their true definition of a hero was or understanding what the real anti-monitor's purpose was or the monitor's purpose was. He held a lot of different pieces that if we would have just killed him off and left it at that, we would have been stagnant with the story because he was pretty much the narrator inside of the narrator for this season, or at least definitely for our episode And if we would have killed him off, what would have happened?
True. True. And I know it is a nod to the comic book character, the Spectre,
Okay.
who wears a green cloak with a hood. You know, he's got the hood and he's got the long cape. Looks really cool. But in Purgatory, when Jim Corrigan shows up and he's just in his street clothes, it's like, oh yeah, I'm passing the mantle of the Spectre on to you. Like, then we see Oliver in this, like, just this green, long, hoodie, shambly thing. I'm like, you couldn't make it look cooler than that?
So that's what it is.
Wasn't it? Should it have been cooler?
Okay, it could have been cooler. I do agree, because it was very glim. Like, everything was very, very, very grim, and I just could not. The lighting, the whole scene was very dark, very, very heavy. So I think he could have had a little more pizzazz to his costume. Perhaps I can agree with that.
I think so.
I'm not familiar with the comics as much, so I'm not sure what that would have looked like, but I do believe that it could have had a little bit more radiant colors to it, simply because that scene was very, very dark, and it would have been nice to see him more in like a hero moment instead of more of what felt like a villain. So yeah, I can agree with that.
Because in the comics, he's basically all white, only wearing like the briefs.
Okay.
And then he's got the green booties and the cloak and with the little collar and then the cape.
Nice.
And then some green gloves, kind of just to the so. You know, I don't know if.
So, would you have liked to see, and perhaps our viewers can comment in the comments as well, would you have liked to see them do a little bit more justice for the comics?
Maybe, I mean, because they did like the little, he looked a little pale. So I'm like, all right, you're kind of giving us like the kind of the palish kind of look in the green cloak and cape. But, and I don't know if Stephen and Mel wanted to like, yeah, I'll get really ripped and jacked for this. So I can just be, you can paint me all white and I'll just wear little shorties and get in this cape. I can see why he's like, no thanks.
I passed that stage.
Yeah, it's like, this is my last season. You know, I don't need to get like in really ripped shape at this point, do I? So I can see why he might have said no to that. But I'm just like, I would like to see like some bridging of it. You know, give him.
Okay.
But I would agree with you there that I did like when he was with Barry in the Speed Force saying, oh yeah, do you trust me? It's like, I will activate your full potential.
Yes. That was a little strange of a moment. And I like that the writing covered for that strange moment. Because Barry was like, okay, you just touched my face.
Yes.
And I even chuckled at that in that moment, because I was like, yeah, you just touched his face. So I like that that was clever in that moment, because in that situation, I was just like, you did nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because you're expecting some sort of like light to glow or something.
Some type of special effect.
Yes.
Something to make me feel like you just made this moment, like you literally empowered him. I see the spark. You know, normally when Barry gets charged up, we see the sparks light up and we just know. So to not see it, it was a nice choice, but it was also very different, so it was hard to accept.
And I felt like I got a little beat on that same story point where every time Oliver would ask, do you trust me? At every cell of my being. And then at the end, he asks him again. I'm like, you already asked him.
Yes.
Oliver, we already know. Everybody trusts you. Why are you wasting time? Just let's get to it.
Part of me, and this might just be because I don't know the comics, but part of me in those moments made me feel like Oliver wasn't Oliver, and that's what they were trying to lean on. Because we had these different variations of Oliver, whether it was like him being resurrected or him being a part of the Speed Force or however it might have been presented, there was this little voice in the back of my head that just kept saying like, this isn't Oliver at all. Like, this is a different variation. This is like an Oliver from a different world or dimension or time period or something. And somehow, some way, they're going to explain this to me. And I was just waiting for it to be like, no, it's not Oliver. Oliver is not dying. This is going to just, be a moment where we're going to resurrect him again, maybe for a third time, or just say that, hey, there was a different time loop that happened and he's really alive over here. But I think that's why they kept saying that, to go like back to the home base of like who they are and their relationship, and that he is the key to making this whole thing happen, to saving the universe, and that without the trust of the team and without the trust of him, this is not going to work. So yeah, it was a little redundant, but
Well, speaking of redundant, and perhaps somebody that is new to the universe, the DC TV universe, enjoyed was seeing in episode 4 on the Arrow part of it, where we're when they get lost in the Speed Force and they're going back into old memories.
Yes.
Seeing those scenes kind of play out again that we've seen already. For you, that's relatively new to the universe. I assume you kind of like seeing some of that history brought to life presently.
I do, but I will say, even though I'm a new viewer, it does get redundant. I mean, like I said, I became a fan of DC through Flash, and Flash has a huge habit of doing callbacks and flashbacks and being redundant in different worlds and different things of that nature. So in this moment, it was subtly done, and it had purpose to move the story along for what Barry needed to do for that episode for Arrow. However, I feel like we could have shortened that time up a little bit. And that's just me. I'm like, I wanted to see a little bit more action. And for me, I feel like the middle point of that episode was just moving a little slow, and it was a little heavy still. That episode was very heavy to me. I like action. I like the story being in high stakes, high intensity fight scenes. That's what keeps my attention. So we didn't really get that until the end. And I was just like, okay, all right.
Because I feel like it must be when the writers are kind of breaking out how they're going to black out these 5 episodes.
Right.
They realize that the end of the 4th episode has to be with the universe being reborn. Great.
Yes.
And then the last episode is dealing with what are the new ramifications of this whole new universe. The majority of the worlds that we've been seeing for the TV shows are now merged into one Earth.
Right.
So I feel like they almost had, like, they knew they needed to end on the cliffhanger of the universe being reborn, and then have that last episode kind of deal with all the aftermath. But they still I feel like they knew they didn't have enough story in the Arrow episodes. So I feel like, well, we can pad it out with just revisiting old moments.
Correct. And that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it felt like.
So now you come into this all new. They're all separated on different Earths.
Yes.
And big takeaways, they did promise that there was going to be some big changes. And it seems like the biggest one is that all the worlds of the DC TV shows that we've been watching have now been merged onto one Earth.
Correct.
So I should speak specifically to the Warner Brothers, the CW shows. Our Titans, our Doom Patrols, our even Stargirl looks like they're spun off on different Earths. So, but our core ones that we watch in the CW, all together now. What did you think of the idea of putting them all together?
It was interesting in the sense of, okay, this makes it easier to know that the world was safe. However, everything is not completely correct yet. And I like that idea. One, as we just said, it kind of stretches out the story so that we have a little bit more room for, just enjoying the moments a little bit more. But it also created this whole dynamic of, okay, what would the world look like if we had all of our heroes in one place? And they did team up like the Flash and Supergirl, or, how would that look? Or what would that look like? And at the end of the day, I was just like, I don't know if I like this.
Really?
It's nice, it's beautiful, but it's too happy-go-lucky. If you had, if you had all of the superheroes there, I mean, the stakes would have to be times 10 for everything to happen. Your villains would have to go to a whole nother level. The crises would have to continue to be extended. Those type of dynamics would have to happen in order to really justify why your heroes aren't being able to be superheroes.
True.
So,
I mean, I there's things about it that I do like. The idea that it's, in sense of the crossovers now, it's easier to explain how they're all getting together because they're all on the same Earth.
Yes.
Which is fine. You don't have to worry about transferring to different Earths all the
Correct.
time. I do like the idea that Lex Luthor is now on the table for all the shows to use if they want to,
yeah.
as opposed to just Supergirl. I mean, they've done the thing where now, since Lex kind of had his hand in the mix at the beginning of time, seems like he's reset the universe where now everybody likes and trusts Lex, as opposed to hating him from before.
How stereotypical was that of Lex?
Of course, you're going to take care of yourself first.
I was like, he took that page and he completely just wrote his truth.
Yeah.
How he wanted to be, perceived. And it was funny because that was a callback to one of the episodes from Supergirl. And it was just like, if they won't believe me, then I'm just going to rewrite it. And I'm like, oh my God, Lex.
But would you, because I mean, I can't sit there and say Lauren, I'd be so selfless as well. I wouldn't take care of myself. I wouldn't worry about me. If I'm get a chance to reboot the universe, I have to admit, I might be tempted.
After all of the stuff that you have done, okay, fine. Everyone wants the second chance, right?
Would you take it? Would you kind of like, I'll set myself up okay? Not that you have to be like, I'm not going to make myself a millionaire, but it's like...
If I was Lex, absolutely, because he just has so much negativity and dirt, like to have a life and come back from that, he needs a jump start. Like, he really does. It's just one of those things. If I was Lex, absolutely, he needs it. That character needed it, and it was so perfect for him. Like, did you change? Not really, but you're trying to change. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the other thing they did, too, is they gave Diggle both his children back. That used to be the thing from Flashpoint where it was the girl and then it was changed into a boy, and now he's got both kids back. Yes. And it looks like Superman now has two sons as well. So
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I know they're working on their pilot for Lois and Clark for next season of CW. So I'm jazzed about that, and now it'll be interesting to see what that happens when he has two sons.
That will be interesting.
Yeah. So overall, were you pleased with this miniseries? Did it deliver for you?
The miniseries, yes. I was very pleased. I have to say that I enjoyed the first 3 episodes more because the stakes were high. Mm-hmm. I feel like the stakes kind of dipped a little bit for episode 4, and then it picked up a little bit for the in between ending of 4 and entering of our episode for 5. And that was one of the things where I was just like, we want to see the heroes fight more, or at least I do. I don't know if y'all want to see them fight more.
I agree. I felt like this is when I really saw, I mean, I know they're operating in a TV budget for sure. They've had to make compromises along the way. But this final battle with the Anti-Monitor, I really felt like, oh yeah, we're dealing with a TV budget. Because it was bare bones in terms of the heroes that were there.
Bare bones in terms of the heroes, and bare bones in terms of, like, for the most part of the stunts and the choreography that was happening as well. For me, I would have liked to see, instead of the Anti-Monitor just having a shield, a bubble around him, I would have liked to see a little more, like, backbone. I would have liked to see a little more friction and, like, the actual combat between them. But they just put a shield around him and let him have his way and then have a big boom. And that, for me, was just like, okay, well, that was somewhat entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're on a, I have to admit, the part that I was also kind of like tired of was seeing Martian Manhunter, who I love as a character. Yeah. But we kept on hitting the beat like, oh, let me tap into your brain and give you those old memories. And we tap it in like, just can't you do like a global like Wi-Fi update of all the people that you want to know this information?
Connect with them.
I guess I gotta touch. All right. And last thing, probably the biggest thing, because I know, spoilers came out about this miniseries even before it aired. Seeing like Burt Ward coming on it, Ashley Scott from the old Birds of Prey TV show. The one that we didn't know about was Ezra Miller reprising his role as Flash from the Justice League movie. Huh. Yeah, so we saw that in the Arrow episode when they have that little Flash interaction.
Got you.
Yes, so
that was sweet.
Yeah, I guess they, there was the whole thing is the DC cinematic universe included in all these multiverse worlds.
And I kind of like, even though there's so much for me to learn, I like that they include little bits and pieces from all these different moments, simply because that's what's going to keep people enticed and trying to figure it out and go, oh my God, I remember that. That's what's building the fan base in this, instead of just watching for quick split seconds. So you didn't like it?
It was fine. I mean, it just felt like, oh, hey, this is a nice little fan service moment, huh? We're getting the TV Flash with the movie Flash. Wow. And we'll see if, at this point, who knows if the Ezra Miller Flash movie is going to happen. I mean, Warner Brothers is still trying, but it's at least a couple years away, I would think. But we'll see.
I hope so.
But you know what? I have to admit, I'm not a fan of that costume.
Why?
It's just like too speed skatery. It's
okay.
Like, I don't know. For me, it's like, I definitely like Grant Gustin's costume much better.
Okay.
To this one, it just seems too bulky. I don't want to say bulky because it's streamlined. He doesn't look really, but it just looks too hard and just like, I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to my aesthetics of what I want a superhero costume to be.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like I want to see him just doing like roller derby. Which maybe is an episode. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So Lauren, you enjoyed the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries.
Yes.
But next week is the true season premiere of Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes, it is.
Season 5. We left off with, we've got beings from hell are being released back to the Earth.
Yes.
We saw Nate's dad, do that stupid amusement park that ended up saving the day. Oh, there's some questions about that.
At first I was just like, okay, this is hilarious. And then I was like, okay, this is clever. We took some far-fetched idea and somehow incorporated that to saving the world. So
we saw a little jump where we see brother and sister swap. So, we've passed the totem on to his brother, who is back, has taken her place, and now she's possibly lost back in 2040, wherever she came from. So I'm sure there's going to be a quest to restore her memory and get her back onto the team, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. I guess they need to go back to actually time traveling.
But, and this is also, I know, it's already been picked up for season 6, which is great. I know we're excited about that. That means you get another season, not just this season, but also the next season to look at our beautiful faces talking about the show. But I know Brendan Routh, he's going to be leaving the show sometime this season.
Oh, wow.
He's decided to step away, whether it's budgetary cuts or his decision. I've read both. Okay. So I feel like the producers wanted to make some changes or some, when you're dealing with original cast members and budgets and contracts, sometimes you got to cut down. Yeah, you got to get new cast members. That's true. You've earned it, but sometimes the network says,
"This is where we're going to cut you off."
Yeah, we're going to let you go. We'll bring in somebody new. We can pay him less. But I'll be curious to see how they write him off.
That will be interesting.
I'm sure that hopefully they'll give him a hero's exit. And we've got Ryan Choi. I feel like he's Adam in the comic books as well. He kind of took the mantle over for Ray Palmer. So I feel like they introduced him during this crossover to tee him up as somebody that could take over for Ray once he leaves.
Yeah, because they had a nice team building moment there. So that makes perfect sense.
But folks, you know what? We're going to get the answers to all these questions. Going to find out what the template is for the whole season next Tuesday night. Yes. Yes, when Lauren, myself, and the very handsome MR Dave Child. That's where you can follow him on Twitter. He'll be back here with us to break it all down, and we can't wait to break it down with all of you. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us for an abbreviated episode, but we were kind of just wrapping up a little mini-series, getting you pumped for next season. But as always, like us on Facebook, give us 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks everybody for hopping in the chat. But if you want to stay in touch with either Lauren or myself or Jonathan after the show's over, Jonathan, where can they find you?
Oh, they don't need to find me right now. I don't really stay up to date with my socials enough.
All right. I mean, they might be just outside. Just say your address, and they'll be waiting for you.
It's H.A. Moulton 87.
Or no, your home address, and they can just meet you there with some pizza or something.
I don't need that.
You sure? All right. Lauren, how about yourself?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lauren B. Mosley. That's Mosley. And hit us up. We love to chat.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show. We'll be back next Tuesday night at 10 o'clock to break down the first episode of this new season of the Legends of Tomorrow. We'll see you then. Speed off.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principal.